Hello and welcome back to another SwansCast podcast. Back season 2024 to 2025. So it's our second episode of that season. I got Ben to join me this week, so welcome back, Ben.
Well, thanks for having me back. Always good to be on.
Yeah, and Ben has just come back from his holidays, so I hope you had a good time. Looks like he's brought the weather back with him. Very, very warm. So just want to apologise for a couple of things in advance. We have been having a little bit of technical difficulties, so if there's a slight delay at all, we do apologise. It is what it is. We can't really fix that right now, but we're going to crack on best we can. And otherwise, if there's any background noise from outside for either of us, it is very hot. I've had to shut my door, what it is, to drown out crying in the background as much as possible, which you might hear a little bit of. Again, I apologise for. But I have to open the window because otherwise I will be melting. I don't know if you're the same, Ben, but it's roasting.
No, I'm dedicated to the cause. I'm happy to melt. I'm dedicated.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's a very small room and it gets very hot very quickly. So I've had to, unfortunately, make those sacrifices. So I do apologise if anything happens outside. It's a bit calm at the moment. Let's hope it stays that way. What isn't so calm is, it is still a bit calm, but Swansea City news has started coming in. The Euros is obviously finished. We've had a little bit of action. One long overdue announcement that we kind of knew what was coming for quite some time with the signing, but finally announced. So it's good that has happened since we last discussed it. But a second one to go alongside. So we'll have a look at those. A couple of rumours that we can touch on. A little bit of extra information about some money we might have had that we didn't necessarily expect. We've had the new kit launched, so we'll have a little bit of a glimpse of that as well. And played our first friendly, so we've got all of that to look forward to today. Not the most packed episode, but we'll get through the big news as we do and give our thoughts and opinions. So let's start the new signings then. So first of all, we didn't expect this to be the first signing, but we signed, and I'm probably going to butcher both of their names because, as always, they're not the most simple and there's accents and pronunciation involved. And I haven't done my due diligence on how to say them, unfortunately, this week. I will do, though. So Gonçalo Franco. Have you got any upgrade on his pronunciation there, Ben?
Gonçalo Franco. I think it's Gonçalo.
It probably is, isn't it? Portuguese, of course. So Gonçalo Franco signs from Portuguese top flight club Moreirense. Again, not sure how you say the name of the club.
On that one.
Moreirense. But they are a top flight club in the Portuguese league. So he's signed centre midfield. We were a little bit short potentially after a couple of departures at the end of last season. Liam Walsh, one of them. I know Alan did extend his stay, but Patino, obviously, his loan finished. So I was expecting a little bit of reinforcements here. And it's come in the form of Franco, the Portuguese midfielder. So he's taken the number 17 jersey. He's 23 years old. He plays centre midfield. I believe he's more of a forward-thinking centre midfielder, more on the attacking or creative side than defensive. Signed a 4-year deal, which seems to be what they're going for at the moment. I'm a little bit shocked at that because usually it's been 2+1s, I think, the last few seasons for a lot of the new signings. And I know we've been discussing quite often the impact that's had because we tend to be quite slow renewing deals. Do you think that's maybe why they've changed to this direction?
Yeah, I mean, there is a definite shift. I picked up on that on the second signing as well. When Franco first got announced, as you said, 4-year deal, we used to say they're seeing 3-year deals plus an option that the club can activate when the player enters the last 12 months of their contract. These are just flat 4-year deals for both Ji-Sung and for Franco. Obviously, we're looking to build assets, maintain their value. It's the same it is in principle, I suppose. That 4th year, if they're good enough, we're going to activate the 1 year anyway. Maybe it just looks better on paper. Maybe it's a case of we need to do that to persuade these two players to join. I'm not sure.
Maybe it protects their value a little bit as well with the Wood situation that we've just had as well.
Yeah, it is a risk, don't get me wrong, because the one player I do remember us having this 4-year deal decision with was Joe Lasaro. We did actually recoup $1 million for him, but it did feel like we were stuck with him a bit, didn't it? We were loaning him out. He wasn't really doing anything with us or with anyone else. Franco, as you say, centre midfielder. Obviously, he is a defensive midfielder. He's, I think I want to say, was the most tackles and second most interceptions or something like that in the Portuguese league last year, which is quite a stat. Obviously, they're not like top of the league, the team he played for, so he is going to have to defend a bit more. But it's quite rare to see that blend. It appears that he's very good intercepting, good in the tackle, but he isn't someone who's going to be fearful to play through the lines and circulate the ball for us. So right-footed, looks a good partner for Grimes, looks a definite starter. You'd imagine, like you say, Fulton last year, he wasn't particularly suited to the system we were playing. Allen played well, but fitness, you just can't rely on him. And then Bettino and Walsh are both gone. So exciting signing, and 12 months on his deal at his former club. So we've only spent about $1 million on him, which seems to be a step. All the talk from the Portuguese people in the know seems, he should be worth a bit more than that.
Positive news, one from out the blue, a little bit like Ronaldo 3, I guess, of our recent signings. Speaking of Ronaldo, do you know what contract he was signed to? Can you remember?
Yeah, that was a 3.5-year deal, I believe, because that was January, so that was a bit more clear cut, wasn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if this is Paul Watson's long-term vision. Obviously, last summer was kind of his first involvement, and he wasn't there for that long beforehand. He's had a lot of stick for that, but I have sensed a bit of a shift in January and now compared to maybe what we were doing last year. So, they kept talking about this data-driven approach and how it will take time to kind of come together the way they want it. I wondered if we're seeing bits of that coming in now. Obviously, time will tell if it's successful. January worked out, I would say, more on the successful side. It was kind of like one good, one medium, one mediocre, wasn't it, in terms of the 3 that came in? But you couldn't really and these 2 signings on paper so far, I know we haven't discussed the second one yet, but they look promising. So I've got high hopes and look forward to see what they could do. The fees as well, they don't seem too bad. So last year that was part of the criticism, was the amount of money we were spending on the incomings. So the ones that we're signing currently or have signed currently, they look like they've got a little bit more experience to go with the cost, and maybe looks a little bit better value than perhaps some of the signings from last year. Luke Williams did describe him as kind of a bit of what we both said, a player who likes to attack but has very good defensive instincts and isn't afraid to tackle and compete for the ball. Maybe a box-to-box midfielder then to supplement Grimes, as you said.
Which I think we definitely needed a bit of. There was a bit of a worrying part to our play last year that the midfield, sort of defensive midfield and our attack midfielders were a bit not connected. Trying to find a better word to describe what I mean. But basically, Grimes we did see pick up bits in the final third a bit more, but it was a struggle to play from defence to attack to make that transition. Franco, not that I know he's going to be one to drive with the ball, mind. I don't know if that's a quality that we've really seen. Well, basically, what I'm trying to say is Encham, who we lost last summer, we never really replicated that part that he brought to the midfield, even if it's through breaking up play and then quickly progressing it forward via passing to, the width that we'll have with, Ji-Sung, as we've just described. We're going to talk about him a bit more, but also Key, Timon, Ronald, Janelli. I think that's definitely the idea of the signing. It's an exciting one for that reason.
Yeah, obviously Janelli to come back. He's still recovering from his injury, I believe, but hopefully he'll be ready for the season. So final word on Franco, he scored 9 goals in 129 games at his previous club. So it's decent for midfield, I guess. It's not like mind-blowing numbers, but a couple of goals a season that probably translates as. So did Fulton get a goal last year? Maybe one, I think he scored. And Grimes had a couple, maybe from penalties more than open play, maybe 1 or 2. But something that we perhaps have been missing a little bit, especially since Encham went, is goals from that midfield position.
Yeah, it translates to a few goals a season, like you say. He seems that he's got a decent strike. It's not going to be him popping up in the box. It'll very much be if he has a cut back to the edge of the area and it opens up for him. Assists-wise, he doesn't seem to have as many assists across his whole career, particularly in Liga Portugal. He's had a bit more. I do think, to be honest, it's going to be very much he's the one who starts the attacks. I can't see him finishing many of them, but we do need that. We're very reliant on Grimes, and I'm a bit more chilled going into the season now, because every season I look at Matt Grimes, I think, right, if you leave or if you get injured, I have no idea what we'd look like on the pitch. He plays almost every single minute, every single season. He's got crazy history of how often he plays for us, Matt Grimes. I think with this signing now, hopefully it won't be as reliant on him to build attacks. If you can't man Mark Grimes out of the game anymore and then leave this guy free just to roam, is the impression I'm getting from him anyway.
Yeah, and I think that is right, because if you could man Mark Grimes and neutralise him, it kind of affected the whole team and made us a lot easier to play against. So if there's someone else they have to keep an eye on as well, hopefully it means that you're distracting players from marking Grimes so he can do more of his own thing. Plus, Franco can also offer a bit then, because he also can't get doubled up on, because both players have that quality, and that should help us then going forward a little bit more. But yeah, can't wait to see him in action. He didn't, and there's a friendly we can discuss a bit later on, but neither of the signings were over the line, and I think they might have been maybe there or thereabouts, but they weren't quite ready for match experience. So they didn't feature, but yeah, more on that later, and more on Matt Grimes later as well. Actually, speaking of, you mentioned some couple of things about worrying about him leaving. Well, it have popped up again, but we'll discuss that a bit later on. Moving on to our second sign-in, we kind of expected this one. We've already discussed him a little bit, but it was a bit of a delay which we weren't expecting, perhaps potentially. But he did get over the line finally, and I'm going to butcher his name again, so bear with me. But we've got Eom Ji-Sung. Do you want to correct me?
Nailed it.
Well, let's hope. From K-League Guangji or Guangzhou FC for an undisclosed fee. Do you have any information on the fee?
At the time, it was, I think Joel Kim was the Korean writer, or in the know, who was following it. I think it's around $1 million. It'll be about 800,000 pounds, rising with like 50k add-ons or so, in that ballpark, similar to Franco.
Yeah, very well spoken of the club by Ki Sung-young, by all accounts. He spoke about it in his interview. I think there's a little video actually put out by Ki saying he would do well, and he was going to do well for us, and it was a good place for him to be, and quite nice to see that connection. I was quite surprised actually, because I didn't think he left in the best of terms, but obviously the club's still in contact, and it's always nice to have good recommendations from former players. So hopefully Ji-Sung can do very well. I always forget which way you meant to call Korean players, because
I've never learned.
Do you think he'll have on his shirt?
Because it just seems to flip all the time.
Yeah,
I think it's Eom on his shirt. I do.
Okay.
It's like it was Sung-young Ki, but it was Ki on his shirt.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'll have Eom.
But yeah, it's a random signing by all accounts, isn't it? I think what you said just a minute ago about the data-driven switch that Paul Watson seems to have taken on now. I think you can justify Franco based without the data, just because the stats that
Portuguese league is
the
probably
of
a bit
interceptions and
reputable.
tackles. Yeah. But then this signing, obviously 22, doesn't have tons and tons of experience, enough to justify the 22. I'm not saying one appearance for the South Korean national team, be it going back over 2 years now, so it's not like he's been in that mix recently. And to give him a 4-year deal. It's an exciting one because it's different, but then Kuharevich was different, and he barely touched the grass today. He did score a goal in pre-season against Swindon, as we'll get on to in a second, I'm sure. It's one of those ones, like, it's pointless trying to sit here and act like we know loads about him and how he's going to feature. We know he's a left wing or cam, so it looks like a Patterson replacement. I think Patterson would have signed on by now if he was going to. Let's just wish him all the best and see how it pans out. It's just one of those, isn't it?
Yeah, Jamie Patterson, of course, no news yet. I don't believe he's signed for any other club as of recording of this video as well. So all we know is the same situation where the offer still stands for him. Up to him what he does at this point. And I don't even think he's necessarily training with the club anymore from what I've seen. He was originally, but I'm not unconfirmed. But I haven't seen him in any of the recent media, whether that's on purpose or not. I'm not sure. But time will tell whether he goes. It's probably just be a case of he either signs for us or he signs for someone else. That's probably how we'll find out. But I do think it would be good if the club kind of didn't just leave the door open. It was a case of like decide by X time, because we just want to know where we are, rather than leaving it in his court a little bit, because maybe he thinks he's got a little bit extra control of his situation now and has a little bit more bargaining power, whether if the pressure's on, then maybe he makes that. Because at the end of the day, right, he either wants to be or he doesn't, and he's clearly waiting for something, whether that's more money or more minutes or whatever it is. But we need to build, and the season is not really too far away. Is it like 3 weeks until the first game now? So yeah, he's missing a lot of important time, training, friendlies, training camp. Obviously, Luke Williams, I would imagine, wants to get his new ethos and mentality and tactics into the team a little bit better than he was able to mid-season. So whether he's still here and involved in all of that or not, again, I'm not 100% sure at this point, but there's got to be a time where you just say enough's enough, like we're going to go a different direction.
All I'd say with giving a potential deadline to say you need to sign by this date is we've had issues in the past with Patterson where, contracts, there's been disagreements. He got frozen out of the squad, come back in, frozen out a bit again. He obviously had that purple patch under Russell Martin with Perot and then fell off a bit, came back. And he was important in parts of last season. Whether we're thinking because Ji-Sung can play centrally, potentially, still got Ollie Cooper. We are still looking at other players in that area by all accounts as well, depending on who's available, other exits. I guess if he was a definite starter week in, week out, we needed him badly, we'd probably have tried more. I can guarantee you the reason he hasn't signed is because we've only offered him a 1-year deal because of his age, and he's hoping somebody gives him a 2-year deal, which is fair enough, and I can't blame him for that. Whether he gets that from someone, I don't know, because it depends what sort of wages he's asking. Time will tell. My guess is if he was going to sign, though, he'd have done so by now.
I know he's been a little bit of a fan favourite in recent times, but I think you are right to pick up on the issues we had before. And I wouldn't like the club to compromise on what he wants because of his record with that sort of thing. I think we shouldn't give him a pass, even if he, rubs the fans up the right way quite often. He did also have their moments that I think we should remember. And no one's bigger than the club. And 1-year deal is what they all get after a certain age, isn't it? So
yeah,
it's consistent and fair, and I think that's a good approach. Realistically, you never know. You might sign that 2-year deal and just not play this year. I know he had a good year last year, and it was quite important at times, as you said. But I also think that was quite largely due to lack of other options. He wasn't really going to start the season in favour, except for the Ncham situation, and by all accounts was nearly out the door before Ncham decided he was leaving, and then just became back into the mix a little bit. So I think it would be risky offering him a longer term contract. But anyway, back to Eom. Don't know why I said that like that. Eom. We had a comment on YouTube last week from Jay Valdez. So welcome, Jay. Says he's from Korea, saying hello and just asking us to speak on the transfer. Kind of we touched it in the last game, in the last podcast. But as I said, it wasn't confirmed then, and we were waiting quite some time to get over the line, even though their club kind of announced the departure quite significantly earlier than we announced the signing. So yeah, welcome. You probably know a lot more about him in terms of his footballing abilities and play style than us. So feel free to comment on this week's video to let us know what we can expect. But in terms of what we see in terms of him fitting into our team, I think Ben's ready at the nail on the head. Maybe a bit of a Jamie Patterson replacement, playing in the centre or on the left wing. I think potentially centre, we're probably a little bit shorter for me. You've got Giannelli, you've got Ronaldo. There's a couple of young wingers who were, staking a claim for positions in the squad, I think, this season. Ollie Cooper can kind of cover all the way across as well. But I think if you're going to start your strongest team, maybe Eom features at the moment centrally. Whether that changes due to other signings and other players available, we'll wait and see. But I think that's where I would suggest they're going to look at using him. But I think Luke Williams touched on training and friendlies being something that they can use to decide where he's best played.
Yeah, I know Ji-Sung did do an interview when he was still in Korea after his former club had, announced it fairly early, basically saying he had an online meeting on Zoom with Luke Williams and basically what convinced him to join. Part of it was Williams talked about how he wanted to implement a 4-3-3 system and then how his abilities Ji-Sung would fit in on the left wing. So he probably is viewed as more of a left winger. So left wing in that respect, we'd be stacked right now, him and Giannelli. Maybe that indicates we are going to continue looking for somebody else at cam. I know there was a move that fell through for Ott, a French player, and I think he would have been left winger as well. So I feel like we are just trying to stack up that front line, left wing, cam, right wing, with loads of versatile players who can all fit in and rotate amongst those roles. Ronald, we've seen him play on both wings as well. I guess it's not so much square pegs, but it's just we're looking for versatility in attack. So that's probably a big reason why we signed Ji-Sung.
I don't think it's square pegs. So when you look at his difference of putting someone in that position when they don't normally play there, or playing them in positions where they could potentially rotate and interswitch, and because sometimes they get in a certain game, maybe you want to do that, and it can cause other issues. I think we did it quite well sometimes under Michael Laudrup with Routledge, Dyer, and Pablo Hernandez when those three were kind of swapping behind the striker, and maybe Giannelli even. He's played kind of as a striker before, as he can play on the wing, but maybe he can even play centrally off the striker if that's what's called for in a given match. But maybe it looks to me there's a lot of pace coming in, and you know what, I'm actually really excited to see that. Obviously, Giannelli, I know he doesn't come in, but it kind of feels like he has. So including him a little bit in what we can expect new this season, because we kind of didn't really see anything of him last year. I just hope that he's not one of them players that's destined for recurring similar bad injuries, touch wood. We have had a few of them in the past, and he hasn't had the best record, has he? So let's hope that it's behind him and we can see the best out of him.
I hope we're smart with Giannelli. I agree with you. It's very, tempting to push them in, be excited he's back, 90 minutes back to back. I hope we have enough depth that we don't need him every single game, because with that injury record, the last thing you want now is to bring him back too quickly. Because, it was a Achilles injury, I believe, but he got injured, when Duff was here, quite a while before Duff left even. So he's been out for a long time. Need to build him back up slowly, so I hope we do that.
I think it was in like September maybe, or
it was early.
It was quite early. Yeah,
for a season ender, it was very early.
I'm not sure. I did check at one stage of the season he had played more games than Aaron Ramsey played all year, so that was a good thing, even though he got injured back then. But I don't know if that ended the case.
My only worry with that type of injury, if it wasn't Achilles injury, if you do lose that burst of speed. I know like medical science and all that's come on like leaps and bounds, so it's easier and easier year on year for players to have the facilities and the know-how to recover from bad injuries. But you do have injuries like that for wingers, particularly where it affects your speed, and that's the biggest asset, one of them, Giannelli's.
Yeah. Moving on then. So last thing on Eom, sorry. He's going to play a number 10 number. He's going to take. He's 22 years old. We already spoke about his position. Signed again a 4-year deal. He's scored 20 goals in 108 games since his debut in 2021. As you said, he's a South Korea international. He's had one cap, but he scored on his debut. So, he might not be making a lot of caps at the moment, but he had a good impact when he did make an appearance. So that's a good thing. Maybe now playing in this league, I don't know where they kind of rate that league's coming from. Like the Japanese K League. Or was it the Korean league? Sorry, the top Korean league, not the Japanese one. I don't know how they kind of rate compared to the championship, transferable in terms of skill level of the players. I know it kind of changes. Obviously, you had money in China once upon a time, so money did head over that way. But players tend to come over here when they want to break through, don't they? Whether that's Championship, Premier League, or one of the other European top leagues.
From what I've looked into, just roughly with that league, it seems like they've got a lot of young talent coming through in South Korea, but their FA is hopeless, hence why so many of them leave at an early age and aren't really given the development they should. It seems like maybe a bit of an unearthed gem, that league, in terms of there is a lot of talent there, but it isn't being utilised maybe as well as they could at their current clubs. So I know I saw something on Twitter as well. We were looking at other South Korean players also. So maybe there's one of those leagues you identify just to keep half an eye on, because you never know that someone else from that league could head our way before the end of the summer.
Could be one of them where not that many clubs are kind of looking in that area or bringing players in, so there is a lot of or less competition for the talent that's there. We've had success, with Ji-Sung in the past. Granted, he didn't come directly from there, but in terms of perhaps fitting into the area and because that's an important thing, I think, when you move country like this as well. Big difference settling in, and you want them to be settled. And maybe that's part of why we might be looking for a second player, is to make that easier for both players. If it was two making a step together, maybe they can settle a little bit. We had a little bit of a Spanish clique once upon a time, didn't we? So who knows where this might go if we are looking at
different teams almost.
Yeah, I know that caused potential issues down the line if you have too many, perhaps, but not too many necessarily of the nationality. But I think there was quite a connection with the manager as well. So when things didn't go well, it was kind of a bit of a divide, wasn't there? But yeah, be interesting to see where it goes. 1 goal every 5 games or so is not a bad record for potential winger. So yeah, I think that's a decent sign-in for the price, and exciting potential, maybe similar to Ronaldo a little bit. We don't know a little bit of what can we expect, but we'll have to wait till he's on the pitch, and who knows, maybe he'll be another star in the making. Okay, last bit of kind of confirmed transfer news, but kind of not 100% confirmed, if that makes sense. But I'm reading that Flynn Downes potentially, who has moved to Southampton by all accounts, there is a little bit of a sell-on clause with us from when he left us to go to West Ham. And if I'm reading correctly, he's gone to Southampton for up to, it's reported as, £18 million. So the up to probably signals a lot of add-ons are involved there, like always is the case these days. Obviously, he's gone to Southampton with that connection with Russell Martin. It was always going to happen, which should mean that West Ham getting around a £6 million profit. Whether that's upfront cash or not is another question from moving him on. And we will allegedly then receive 10% of the profit based on the difference between what we sold him to and what he's now being sold for. Have you seen anything on this?
Yes, it's a tough one to figure out, to be honest. Obviously, the people in the background will know, but for us as a fan, we know we sold him to West Ham for 9 million, rising to 14 potentially with add-ons. How many of those add-ons have been activated? I'd imagine very few, because he's barely kicked a ball in the Prem. He played a bit in, I believe it was the Europa League or Europa Conference League. I can't remember. They won one of those competitions. I think it was the Conference League.
Yeah.
And went on loan to Southampton. Did very well by all accounts, but I can't imagine he would have activated many add-ons when on loan in the Championship. He's now been sold from West Ham to Southampton for, like you say, up to 18 mil, but we don't know exactly how much of that's guaranteed, how much isn't. So when calculating that 10% of the profit, you'd imagine it's going to be somewhere between like 750k up to about 1.5 mil, just ballpark, which is welcome, obviously.
Yeah, so I think, there probably was other add-ons that perhaps he hasn't triggered, but the profit one is at least a little bit consistent. Just depends what the figures were on paper at the time to work out what that difference is between what he was sold for then and what he was sold for now. I guess it would be in West Ham's interest to say we bought him for 14 million and I was selling him for 18 million. You wouldn't want them to be like, oh, well, actually, this didn't activate and this didn't activate. So we actually only paid 8 million for him because now 10% is higher.
Yeah, exactly. And it's in West Ham's best interest to say the add-ons have been activated, but obviously we've got proof whether they've been activated or not because we would have been paid by West Ham for those add-ons. So I do think that's more black and white than, it's black and white enough for us to not need a whole court battle over like Russell Martin, B2, you know what I mean? But
I'm sure they won't mess about though. It's
say now it's £1 million. That's probably £1 million we weren't guaranteed to have by any means this summer, so it's welcome. Whittaker's the one we really do need to move because that would be 25% of just the sale. So if he goes for 20 mil, that could be a big chunk of money, more, a lot more than we even got for Nathan Wood. So,
any news on that front? Or
doesn't seem to be whether he's been priced out of it a bit. There is the thing of he's only done it at that level for one season. He's got 3 years on his deal. He's settled because he's as soon as he got taken back away from Plymouth, he was unhappy again. So I doubt he's like bashing the door down to try and move. But we'll see. It could be a January thing, if they're doing bad because they did only just stay up by the skin of their teeth. If they're down near the relegation zone again and they think we're going to go down regardless, they may just cash in.
Wayne Rooney, though,
it just doesn't suit the club, does it?
Wayne Rooney, manager of Plymouth, is mad, isn't it?
This isn't anything to do with like how big Plymouth are and how big Wayne Rooney is. By the way, when I say that, he's a Championship manager, has been Wayne Rooney, so it's not a case of like.
You say he's a Championship manager, but he hasn't really been that successful recently. So, is there an argument to say Championship is he's lucky to get another job there?
Did very well at Derby, and that was a team that was struggling. There is that argument. Came in at Birmingham, a team that was doing very well, and the expectations needed to be sky high because they'd sacked Eustace, who had them in a playoff run. That obviously fell apart. I don't know. It's one of those ones. Like as far as like style of play goes, like Wayne Rooney's style of play isn't what I picture Plymouth Argyle being. You know what I mean?
They were quite excited last year, weren't they? Before Schumacher left.
Whittaker, Mumba, Schumacher left. It fell apart for them a bit. Maybe just from if I'm trying to put myself in Plymouth's point of view, they're seeing they stayed up by the skin of their teeth. Really reliant on Whittaker. Like if it's worse than like us with Grimes. If Whittaker didn't turn up, Plymouth lost basically last season. That's how it went.
So worse than us with Peru.
Yeah. So from their point of view, right, bring Rooney in. He will have recruits like connections for loan transfers. You'd imagine he is someone players will want to play for because of who he is. And then the style of play, it's going to be defense first. But if it keeps them up, I don't know how sustainable that is long term. But
do we think that we would rather Whittaker go now because Wayne Rooney might ruin his current, what's the word, like valuation if he doesn't have a good year.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll have a good year into Rooney?
Yeah, of course we'd rather him go now, just because he obviously could get injured, say an ACL. You don't have a £20 million player anymore. I really don't know how he could increase his value. Like, he could score 25 goals again this season, and he's still a £20 million player in my eyes. You know what I mean? It's only so much you're going to get for a player like that in the Championship, I think.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so hopefully we get some money for this Downs move, and that's helpful. And whether there's any more little add-ons we get from elsewhere, from other moves across that might happen, we'll have to wait and see. But any extra money coming in is always a bonus. Speaking of money, have you got £56 spare 3 times?
I'll stick with the one I'm wearing if you're referring to the kit prices, I think.
I think it is 56, isn't it? I did check earlier. Yeah, so third kit has been revealed. Very early, if I might say myself. Usually there's a bit more of a thing about it. I know it got leaked, but so did the home kit. They kind of picked that up a little bit. And usually
they probably think it's out there anyway. Yeah, it's out there anyway. There's no point trying to keep it secret.
I thought the advertising campaign for it was quite poor.
It just came a bit out of nowhere, didn't it? It was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere, but also like, I just felt like it was a bit naff. I know most people only buy the top when you buy a third kit, but they were kind of just pushing the top rather than the kit. You know, it's third kit. It's not. Yeah, okay, you want to sell it to us, but we also want to know what it is because we want to see what they're going to be wearing on the pitch. It's not just for being sold, although the club obviously probably does it for that reason. But I just found, I don't think any of the players were in the promotional video from what I could see. And
it was all just random like models, wasn't it? I presume.
Yeah,
I didn't recognize any of them.
Out of touch a little bit from what they normally do. There's usually a bit of banter or like, I don't know, a bit of buzz with the players seeing it and be like, oh, I like that, or whatever their thoughts are on it. So just thought it was a bit anticlimactic. And I know you've got these pictures now, obviously leading with the first 2 new signings of the season. I don't know what I make about it. I think I need to see it in person to have a final opinion.
Whether they thought, oh, this kit isn't very good, we need to
get all the models
look good in it to make it look better. Because like I know if anyone's on Spotify, they won't be able to see our screen now. They're sharing a screen showing the kit launch, and most of it is just. I'm fairly sure I don't know any of those people. They are just models.
Look, I'm sorry if it is people connected to the club that we are not doing a good job of identifying.
Yeah, there could be staff for all we know. We don't know that.
What I'm trying to say is there's no first team. The first 2 pictures you can see that I showed were the first, the 2 signings we've already discussed. So Franco and Eom. They were the first 2 pictures here that are clearly added on later because the background is green screen and everything.
Yeah.
They are like probably the ones they're going to use on the advertising, like on the club shop website. And then you go into the kind of marketing campaign, which is all the generic models. They're just showing the top in your everyday clothing. So like you're wearing it out and about in your everyday life, which is fine. You're trying to sell a third kit. But like this is how they kind of launched it. I want to see the kit. I didn't know what color the socks and shorts were. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I know
I still don't know I don't know what color the actual top is still, to be honest. Like, look at it. It's
like a lavender light, I don't know, purpley. What's this? It doesn't say, does it? Let's have a look. Does it have a link to the actual shop here? So there's the socks and shorts. You can see them on the shop. It's very difficult to see them in any of the promotional images. The shorts are a darker purple. The top is a lighter camo print as well. That's quite important, with blue, very light sky blue elements and some sort of whitey purple elements. It's the camo with the darker purple, which isn't dark purple. It's actually lavender color. But I need to see it in person. The back is all plain. Basically, there's a little bit of pattern in there, but it's not camo print like the front and the sleeves.
It could be one that looks better in person. I won't be buying it, though, I gotta be honest. I think what I will say with the price increase, it probably has been a long time coming. Like, inflation's been quite large for the last few years, so it was never going to stay as £45. We were already one of the cheapest, I think, in professional football, like top few divisions in the UK pyramid. £56 is still not like, you go to like the major clubs, your Arsenal's, Chelsea's, United's, and you go on their website, you're paying like 100 quid sometimes. Like the England shirt was 75 quid for juniors I'm right in saying, for the Euros. So
Yeah.
it's still, I know £11 increase is a lot. I'm not going to get on the club's back about it too much. What I will say is it will be reflected in the sales, I'm sure. For example, this is the first year I'm not buying a kit for, well, a top, I should say, for a good 7 years, 8 years, I think. Partly because of the price increase, partly because I'm not that fussed on them this year, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't hate this, but I don't love it either. It's kind of like I need to see it in person to make a proper opinion. I can understand the quirky third kits. I understand what they're going for. I don't know whether it's different enough though from white. Like if white clashes with something, maybe this also clashes a little bit. If it's a like pale blue or something, I don't know, like a Coventry, like a white and pale blue. I feel like you can't wear this or the white. I personally would say.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you could do that with sky blue, like you're saying. There's literal bits of blue on there. That's where the away kit would come in for. I'm not gonna lie, the away kit was so forgettable. I can't even picture it right now. I just remember not liking it.
Is it black? It's just black camo, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not gonna clash, like you say, but it's not a lot to it, is it? Like the black one from, was it 4 or 5 years ago? They're very similar in my eyes, to be honest.
I do like home kit. I'm not gonna lie, I like the home kit.
Oh yeah, the home kit's my favorite one, which is quite rare.
I like the orange trim.
Yeah, they made the sponsor work of it. It's a difficult sponsor, orange, to make work with a white kit, and they managed it though.
Yeah, we do copper, don't we, quite often. So I think orange isn't too far away from copper if you're changing the branding. Copper's got a bit more meaning behind it, mind, but
yeah.
But yeah, there we go. There's the third kit and a bit on the other kits. The £56, I'm not that. Like it is, you never want to see things go up. You're all right about inflation. I checked just out of curiosity, Wrexham in a lower league, perhaps a bit more publicity these days. There's 60 quid for a home kit in Wrexham. So, we've put into a bit of perspective a little bit, I think.
Yeah. And you have no doubt as well, they're charging 60 quid because they'll have all the orders in from the US that they know they can charge you.
Well, I have a fan of Wrexham that I'm quite friendly with. He, local to the area. He said obviously that Macron is their kit supplier for a start. They use a local factory to make it, and they really can't keep up with the demand. He said they really struggle to keep up with the demand. So it didn't sound like it's changed an awful lot in terms of pricing and what they do with the kit because the contract haven't changed since the takeover. I think that's up for renewal, he said, soon. But he's expected to stay with Macron. And yeah, he didn't sound the best hopeful about the availability, though. So it didn't seem like they had an issue with the price. So, I mean, I know I paid a bit less kind of discount, but Wales in rugby, full price was over 80 quid what I had for the World Cup last year. So it's not like...
It don't surprise me. It's 100 quid to watch Wales versus Italy in the Six Nations. You know what I mean?
I mean, a rugby jersey is a bit thicker and a bit...
yeah, they're more well-made, aren't they?
Yeah, but still quite steep. Okay, so that's the kits. Let's talk about the friendly then. So Swansea played Swindon in a behind closed doors friendly, which Swansea actually won 3-1 with goals from Liam Cullen, Mac Rhymes, who scored a penalty that was won by Ollie Cooper, and Mikola Kuherovic also got on the score sheet, which I know as friendly, so it's easier to chuck him on the pitch to get some minutes, but the fact that I think he played the entire second half, which, look, maybe it's his chance to make an impression on Luke Williams, and maybe there's still hope yet. I'm not 100% sure. I do still think maybe we can expect him to try and be moved on. But we'll see. We'll see if he can make an impression, if he keeps putting goals in during pre-season, maybe there's a chance. I didn't see Josh Thomas in the team. I don't know whether he's got any injury in terms of other attacking options I thought might get a look in this year. And there's another name that stood out as well, which I thought was quite interesting. John Bostock played for Swansea in this game.
John Bostock?
Yeah, a little bit of a weird one. He used to play for Tottenham at one stage, a bit of a, done the rounds. 32, I think he is now, but he's just one of them players that's not really quite old captain and moves around the leagues quite a bit. But it's a blast from the past for anyone from perhaps our Premier League days, even.
Do you mean Swindon when you say?
No, he played for us. He I don't know why. If you go on the Swans, I'll put it up actually. Let me pull the teams up on the screen. I'll read through the teams for those listeners.
Like as a trialist, obviously, as a like
whether he's a trialist or
just
connections with Luke Williams, and they were a bit short, perhaps in the centre. And he was there for Sometimes you get players who, like the manager, like Wilfred Boney was training at Newport, wasn't he? Because he had a good relationship with the manager, just to keep him fresh, to keep him, fit for when he does sign for a new club. I wouldn't have thought he was going to sign for us because I think he was at Notts County the last few years.
Yeah, I mean,
and he's
played
on the wrong end of age.
Yeah,
he did used to play for Swindon.
Yeah, played for Swindon between 2011 2030. But like you say, yeah, it's going to be Notts County is the reason for that, I suppose. Just trying to get fit. I missed that entirely. I thought we signed him. I was like, what?
Or maybe he's someone 32. Is he going into coaching, and that's someone that Luke Williams wants around the team for the youngsters? He had Premier League experience. He was in Tottenham for a while. I believe he was. He might have even come through the academy there. You've got his stats up now, have you?
I was just looking at his career history. His stats wise, 340 games throughout his career, 35 goals, 28 assists. He's been around as well. So Royal Antwerp.
Where did he start? Was it Spurs?
Palace, and then Spurs bought him when he was young.
Yeah, so he was. Did he have any England caps? He might have actually had one. I can't remember.
No, he switched to Trinidad apparently. Don't say he's played for them, mind.
He's one of them that I couldn't get a look in, so he's gone somewhere else. There's a couple of them lately, isn't there? Jamallo.
Yeah.
I know they obviously got reasons to do it, but it's one of them you do later in your career quite often, isn't it, when the first option doesn't quite work out.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first half, Swansea played Andy Fisher, Josh Key, Ben Cabango, Philip Lassar, Josh Timon. I'm saying his name wrong again. It's been the summer break. Josh Tyman, Matt Grimes, Joe Allen, Ollie Cooper, Ronald, Azim Abdullah. I think maybe played Abdullah on the wing then.
He did, yeah.
Liam Cullen. And in the second half, Nathan Broom. Obviously speaks volumes of our goalkeeper situation. Not to say Nathan Broom hasn't got a future, isn't good, but Andy Fisher and Broom as the two goalkeepers. I feel like there's somewhere we need to address. Kyle Norton, Harry Jones, Christian Pedersen, Sebastian Dabrowski, Joel Cotterill, Jay Felton, John Bostock, Liam Smith, Cameron Congreve, Mikola Kuherovic. Now, that second half team worries me for our depth right now. I know we've got the two players to add on that just signed. We've got Gianelli coming back. You've got Darlin, who didn't feature because he's recovering from injury too. But considering there was some... you had Lassar and Abdullah, who you could perhaps class as still coming through the youth team. Maybe Abdullah's a bit further along. That started in the first half, and then you look at the second half, and the names you see in there. Pedersen, is he going to still be here?
Yeah, I was going to say, particularly when you consider Pedersen and Kuherovic, you can expect them to be loaned out again or sold if there's interest by the end of the summer as well. Kyle Norton, really, and Jay Fulton, the only two in that second half team who started, or you'd be happy starting a game for us and be able to rely on them, I'd say, to be honest.
Like Congreve, who was there, who didn't get looking at all last season. Those other youngsters that massively jumped him in the pecking order. Joel Cotterill had a bit of a look in, and he was there or thereabouts in some games, cup games. I think he had a couple of league game bench appearances. But otherwise, yeah.
I mean, one name I'm not seeing there either is Kyrell Wilson. I'm not sure if he's injured or what, but in my eyes, he was the next attacking player from the
it's fun of them again, when the new managers come in, and maybe he's just, I don't know, like Josh Thomas, I thought would have perhaps last season he was banging him in pre-season.
The thing we don't know is anyone close to a loan move, in which case they could already be elsewhere training, but they haven't announced it yet. You see that with EFL teams sometimes they have players in the door for a couple of weeks and they just don't announce them immediately for whatever reason.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if there was any subs either, mind, or whether that was just every single person who played.
I think they just did first half team, second half team.
In which case, you can't make too many changes, otherwise you can never really get...
You're going to get 45 each, so I don't really think they need subs unless there's an injury.
It's the first preseason game. I know they're behind closed doors against Bristol Rovers. I'm not sure if we'll see... I doubt we'll see anything from that, but obviously we're off to Austria now in the coming days. Got a couple of games there, so we'll have more of an idea then of who's featuring, who's maybe on their way out.
Yeah, because it really isn't that long until the season kicks off. It's coming up quite quick, I think, and it'll be honest before we know it. not much left to go through then. A couple of bits and bobs. Coach Jerry Yates has been talking since he's moved to, where's he gone? Derby County. They haven't really said much other than the fact it didn't really work out for him at Swansea City. They really struggled as a team under Michael Duff at the start of the season. Got themselves into a relegation battle, said it wasn't really where the club wanted to be, which they were eyeing a promotion race, is what he said. And said there was a lot of change at the club and things just didn't settle, including himself. So, I mean, kind of said a bit without really saying anything at the same time. So
it's the generic stuff. I don't think it would have been odd if he came out and said it was a good season, just needed a new challenge, because obviously he did struggle, especially after Luke Williams came in, which was surprising. Hope we covered it last podcast, really, and I don't think anyone wishes him ill. Everyone wants him to kick on and do well, hopefully raise his value a bit. I doubt it's one of those ones where he can come back and maybe kick on, you know what I mean? It feels like very much the door's closed. So hopefully he does well for them this season.
Let's hope. Matt Grimes, I mentioned earlier, a little bit of speculation. I feel like we have this every year. Thought we were over the line, I'm not going to lie. I thought that we were over the line, especially when he signed that new contract last year. But Sheffield United apparently sniffing around Matt Grimes. Don't know how much truth, what to believe in terms of this. If it's just speculation, it's just names. Not sure. So it is a rumour, so take it with a pinch of salt. But they've been taken over, haven't they, Sheffield United? And they are scouting or looking at Matt Grimes as one of the key signings, apparently, in the way back to the Championship.
Well, I don't know if they've been taken over yet. I believe there's issues, and it's sort of dragging through the summer a bit for them. And I think it's one if the takeover did, get finalised successfully, he's on their list. But I'm not being funny. I'd literally give it a less than 5% chance of happening, maybe even less than 1%. It's just signed on a long-term contract for the second time in a couple of years. I think he's 29 just recently now. So I think as important as he is to us, I'm not sure another club would see that value in him. I'd honestly say with the length of time he's got on his contract, we'd be looking 10 mil. And that's not to say that's actually what he's worth. That's we don't want to sell in price. Every player's got a price. But if you are actually stupid enough to go over the odds, we want 10 million from Sheffield United just come down, then they're not going to spend 10 million on him. Neither is anyone in the Prem. I saw someone say, I wonder if Southampton will come in for him this summer now. I honestly think it's one of those ones where his value to us is so much larger than what the general market would view him as.
Yeah, I agree.
It just won't happen.
I agree. Apparently the source is from Alan Nixon, so it depends how much credit you give him. I don't think he's always been the most reliable lately.
He used to be good. I think since last couple of years or so, everything he said with the Swans just hasn't happened. It used to be very hit and miss in general.
Whether that's the case of we're just in for so many people that don't come off. I'm not sure.
I'm not to say he's never right. Don't get me wrong. But what did he actually say? He said Sheffield United want to sign Matt Grimes. I'm sure they do, but that's far from means it's happening, isn't it?
Yeah, just take it with a pinch of salt. You are right. The proposed takeover by Silicon Valley-based US consortium. So is that like what? Like owners like us, or are they going to have a bit more money?
Oh, God knows. Tons of money in Silicon Valley, but then there should be tons of money with our owners. Although, what I will say is that's 2 signings we made with our owners this summer now, $1 million a piece. We haven't exactly had tons of outgoings to generate cash. There's cash injections every couple of months. Obviously, historically, there's plenty to criticize the owners for recently.
Really, I haven't had that much of an issue lately. I know there's a big fuss over last summer, but
we're turning into...
You can't say they didn't try and spend money, even if it wasn't correct, So what's your argument, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say is the cash injections they're putting in, which they continue to do, is just share conversions. So they are gaining something out of it. They're diluting the other minority shareholders' stake in the club. But that's the only way they can justify putting that money in. We're not getting it for free, quote unquote. Yeah. How much longer that'll be able to go on for? It's a bit concerning because I can't see many people wanting to buy us. Football in general.
We're not going to get sold unless either things go very wrong or we go back up to the Premier League. I think the 2 extremes of. I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to cash in if we did go up straight away, as a case of right, let's get out while the value's at perhaps the highest it's going to be. Because how easy is it to stay in the Premier League these days? Probably a lot more difficult than it was ever before. And can we realistically do it? Do they really realistically want to spend the money to do it? Or do they capitalise trying to sell, a new project that's just entered the top league to someone that perhaps is more willing to take something on. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if it ever happens.
Yeah, no, you're right though. They would presumably sell the first summer we're in the Prem just because it's guaranteed income for whoever's coming in. It's a win-win in that they recoup their investment, probably earn a tiny bit of profit. But whoever's coming in can guarantee they've got that first season of income from the Premier League, and then minimum of the 2 years of parachute payments you get from getting relegated straight away. Obviously, we're thinking very positively here, Luke. We have to get promoted first, which is.
I was just talking about the long-term vision. People obviously,
exactly.
There's a lot of people that still want them gone. Just talking about the realistic situations that it might happen. Can't see it happen in another way unless they get to the point where they need to just sell because they need the money, which is probably not close to that being the case. The businessmen, they're probably happy with, they put this money into this asset, they'll just tick away and hopefully one day it'll turn profitable for them. It's probably how they view it, realistically.
At this point,
unless we free fall down the leagues and they're like, do you know what, we'll cut our losses. I don't see any other way.
They had that plan when they came in, didn't they? This is the part where you can criticise them. They took a club that had been in the Premier League for 7 years, viewed that as a solid Premier League team that'll finish mid-table every year. They saw the projected increase in broadcast revenue for the Prem, so thought we'll keep you for 5 years, then sell you. But obviously, what was it? First season went straight down. Was it second season?
Second, maybe or third.
Yeah,
well, it was first two full seasons, wasn't it? I think they took over maybe mid through. Got rid of Guidlin and Bradley. We saved that year when Clements come in, but then the next year was too much. Okay, so we'll see what happens with Grimes. Hopefully, it's nothing to really be worried about. And I think they do source it in this article I was reading. Maybe you should have a word with Leon Britton when it comes to Sheffield United anyway. A lot of similarities there. So, yeah, there's that to consider. Swansea apparently have had a 500k bid rejected for Adama Sidibe from St Johnstone, Gambian striker. Don't know if we'll go back in. I think it was a low ball bid to see test the water. But
I mean, this is another one. I think Nixon originally broke not the 500k bid, but the original link. I believe he broke. So I don't know how true it is. It's probably one of those ones that maybe we're after, but not top of the list. On paper, he's only been a professional footballer for what, 6 months, and he's 25, I believe.
Yeah, he's that one that was just pulled out of nowhere.
It is a random one, to be sure.
Maybe it's one of them where they just 500k, see what they say, and just okay, and then they might go back, they might not.
We never take Scotland seriously. I think that league in general, it reminds me very much of Lawrence Shankland when he was banging in the goals and we were offering.
Hey, he went to the Euros.
Yeah, and deservedly so. I think he went, I want to say Belgium, something like that, then came back to Scotland. He's still doing well. I think we could have had him for 500k, I believe, at the time, and we were offering 250, just penny pinching for the sake of it. And who knows how well he would have done in the Championship, I'm not saying, but we always seem to just chuck in low ball offers in Scotland for youngsters who are running their contract down and hope.
Other than last summer. We actually paid last summer.
Yeah, I mean,
Guerovic, and then maybe that's that's why we don't do it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones. We seem to spend the money at the wrong time. There's been a few instances where we haven't pulled the trigger. Matt O'Reilly, I know it would be 1.5 mil up front, for example, but we just didn't do it. Now he's gone Celtic and he's worth 10 mil plus. It's ones like that. What was the one Rotherham boy in an interview said?
Ogbene, was it?
Yeah, Ogbene, just come and sign me, please. And they wanted a mil. We offered 500k. He's now worth significantly more than a mil. And then we spend 2 mil on Kukurevich. Just hindsight's an easy thing, but we have a lot of errors in us, unfortunately. Hopefully, this guy is.
As there probably is a lot of clubs. We just don't see all of them. And obviously, we've lost out on Langstaff now as we go on to Millwall. And I believe McBurney's not on the cards either, which was one that was getting floated around. I know that was probably just a case of the love story links, but he's going somewhere else in the Championship. Hull, was it, I think?
I haven't seen, but yeah, I didn't think McBurney was ever going to be on the cards, to be honest with you. I don't think it could be a personality thing in terms of, he's had issues with drink driving and things. I'm not sure that's something that Luke Williams really wants to bring in. And there was what I've only said then, Longstaff. I do believe for the price, maybe what was he, 800k to Millwall. I think if we wanted him, I reckon he'd have come with Luke Williams. It could just be an age thing, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe, yeah. Luke Williams was quite happy with the direction that we're going in. Then he wasn't desperate to bring in, was he, or any of his other players, or maybe he has got too much respect for his former club that he doesn't want to go in and take their best talent. The last thing I've got on here then is Swansea eyeing up a move for released Rangers strikers James Graham, but this is more for the under-23s from what I can see. So I've seen that he's down here for medicals. We'll see if something goes over the line with that one. Nothing that I could see that's really to get too excited about. He's probably one of them players that's got a bit of potential. He's available. We can chuck him in the youth and see what comes of it.
Yeah, like you say, I'm not going to pretend to know anything of him, but it doesn't seem like a player that would realistically, if he did sign for us, feature at all this season in the first team. So just one to step away and see if anything comes of it over the years.
A couple of loans I think haven't really gone too well for him, but he is only 20 or 21. So yeah, we'll see if anything comes of that one. Anything from your end that I've missed?
Nothing you've missed. Obviously, I do check every day now, but at least once a day for any news. Doesn't seem to be anything significant, but then Ji-Sung very much, I know it dragged on, but initially just sprouted up out of nowhere. Franco came up out of nowhere 2 days later. We'd signed him and it was done.
Yeah.
So you got to believe there is stuff going on in the background and hopefully something comes to fruition. I mean, one thing with the goalkeeper position, I wouldn't really have pinned too much hopes on Rushworth now. I think Verbruggen, the keeper that rotates with Steele for Brighton, he's out for 6, 7, 8 weeks, I believe. So he'll definitely be kept around for most of the window now, you'd imagine, because you could expect him to feature as number 2, along with, just behind Steele. Maybe means we have to look elsewhere, because I don't think they're going to want Fisher as, number 1 by choice.
Well, I mean, Luke Williams worked with him before.
I mean, I think you just got to look at what happened when he did have those minutes consistently in a team, by the way, that he was, chosen to be first choice for, that suited the style of play perfectly. Just cost us so many points. So not to say that he can't cope, but I'm sure if the worst comes away, you'd expect it. He could well be starting for us first game of the season, but by the end of August, you'd like to think somebody else is in the door. Same with number 9, Jerry Yates gone, Kuharevich probably gone by the time the season's over. The summer's over. Jamal Lowe moved on elsewhere. So it's just Cullen, really, that we've got at the minute, if we're being honest in it. So definitely.
Yeah, well, these other names didn't feature in our friendly. So whether they are training with the first team or not, I don't know. It's tricky to see, really. Janelli maybe is a name, but is he even going to be ready for start of the season? I think Cullen might start there, but whether we sign someone before or after the window closes, I feel like we should.
Yeah, they still rate Cullen, don't get me wrong, but you need more than one recognised number 9 going into a season, don't you? You need at least 2.
You can't be playing Cullen 90 minutes week in, week out, hoping that he's going to carry the team. I think you'll just burn him out more than anything. I know he runs himself into the ground, but that's too much for any player. Okay, well, thank you very much, Ben. It's been a pleasure as always, so I'm sure we'll reconvene this soon. Maybe, I don't know whether it'll be next week. Obviously, it's kind of slow period of the summer, but it won't be more than 2 weeks away, I'm sure, for the next episode. So as always, thanks for everyone who's watching or listening on Spotify. Leave a comment about any of the information we talked about today. Let us know your thoughts, and we shall catch you in the next one.